In my college history, Microsoft never came. So I convinced Google and Microsoft both to come to our campus.
Wow.
If I am working, somebody has to see value and they have to pay for the value. So that mantra I have always stuck to. And that sort of worked at NowFloats as well. In India, you have to धंधा करने के लिए लोग चाहिए होता है. वो merchant कभी ₹1 नहीं देगा आपको. The guy says मेरे को ना software आलू प्याज की तरह बेचना है. बोले सर आप ही सही इंसान हो. But the top guys have to have
the feel of the market.
The feel of the consumer, the feel, yeah. So I get few ideas in every segment. तो क्वांटम पूरा सर के ऊपर से गया तो सबसे पहले फिजिकल आउट हो गया. हाँ, एजुकेशन सिस्टम एंश्योर्स दैट तुमसे कुछ नहीं होना. तुम क्लास में फर्स्ट नहीं आते, तुमको साइंस नहीं आता, भैया वो बकवास है ना.
And now what I like to do is I want to invite the Rocket Boys with the ball of energy here.
The idea is when you build stuff like that, you're actually building the infrastructure for housing these data servers.
You enable the grassroots and then you have a solution for them when they go bigger also. So it completely just teaches the whole story. If you look at wherever the human is there, they have taken compute along with them. Today, Alexa is in my bedroom.
Yep.
My daughter, the first word she sort of orated was not Papa, Mama. She said Alexa.
Next couple of years, maybe pharmaceutical companies are going to be the next big thing.
So I met Ronak somewhere in 2013, right? And I thought he was, like his level of energy has always been amazing, but it's even gotten more amazing with age. And we invested in his company, it's called NowFloats. So NowFloats are building something fairly incredible. And I'll ask him to come and explain that because he was building the tech behind it. And it literally put small businesses on the map across the country. In 2019, NowFloats got acquired by Reliance. And then Ronak was at Reliance for almost 5 years. And after that, when he was raising the round for TakeMe2Space, we got a chance to reconnect. And this was the first time where we had a company, this is our circular economy company, where we invested in the company, we exited from the company profitably. And then the founder came back and we invested in his company again. And now he's gone on to build something fairly incredible that nobody believed was possible 1 year ago until Elon Musk sent a tweet 10 days ago. Now everybody believes it's possible. Right? So Elon Musk is almost the voice of God at this point. But without further ado, please welcome Ronak on stage. So Ronak, you are born in Odisha, right? Not many Odisha-born founders out there. And what I like about your LinkedIn profile is that you've only had 3 jobs in life. First job, Microsoft. Second job, NowFloats. Third job, TakeMe2Space. Tell us a little bit about growing up and how you got into the tech space,
I got lucky that way, that when I was 10 years old, I fell in love, right? I fell in love with computers, and that sort of became my definition of understanding the world. And yeah, I have been a coder since then. I was telling the gentleman, like, when I get stressed in life, I write code. When I have nothing to do, I write code. And luckily, I'm 86 born, right? So this is 1996 when I saw a first computer, and luckily today I believe that the whole world runs on code somewhere down the line, right? All of us are using a product which is written by code, and that way I got lucky that I have a skill that all coders, we have a cult of like God wala feeling, because we think we control people. We take your time, the biggest asset. We build products that takes your time and attention, right? And that is the high that I get for writing code. And that's what my journey has been. It's always been writing code. And since that day, I knew that I will always write code. And yeah, I used to suck at everything else. I was so bad in studies. And computer exams were the only thing I used to go, exams se 2 घंटे पहले आता था, because everybody used to come to me to ask doubts.
Achha.
Baki se I used to go last. So yeah.
But tell me, like, growing up, you went to Microsoft, right? And you were there for 3 years, and obviously joined at a very tough time, 2008, in the job force. Microsoft was India or outside?
India.
But then where did you get this entrepreneurial bug?
In college, so I went to a random college, like CET Bhubaneswar. I was clear that, bhaiya, agar engineering karna hai, to computer science mein karne ka hai na? Other things doesn't matter. And in my college, I did that technical club, software club. So our college was a CET Bhubaneswar, great college, great professors, but there were no professors, right? You had to do everything yourself. हर चीज़ खुद से करने का था. We used to do क्या बोलते हैं उसको? धरना को क्या बोलते हैं? Protest. Yeah, that was the biggest entrepreneurial thing that I did. Every year we used to protest, and I used to sort of lead the thing and all that nonsense I used to do. And
what were you protesting?
Normal ragging nahi hona chahiye. We don't ask to wear formals. Our placement officer said कि अपने time में placement will be in 4th year. We were like, dude, we are not IITs and NITs, right? We will not get jobs otherwise. So I was leading that whole thing.
Achha.
So yeah, so protest really helped me because I was an introvert back in the. I'm a single child, so I'm a very introvert guy. So my college really brought out the fact that I can go speak. You have to speak your ideas. You have to speak your mind. You have to sell something, right? You have to sell because you have to sell an idea to the professors all the time. To sell an idea to principals is always about selling an idea, right? Microsoft. So in my college history, Microsoft never came. But I was a placement secretary, right? So I used to write those emails. I convinced Google and Microsoft both to come to our campus.
Wow.
That was so cool. And luckily, I was the only guy selected. I mean, they didn't know that I was writing the email. I was writing the email for my professor's mail account, right? Google was not allowed because they said, her branch ka top 10 students will allow. Our principal said no. But anyway, Microsoft happened. So that was lucky. You know, and that was a very enlightening moment for me because I screwed up my 10th and I'm a typical middle class family जहाँ पे होता ना कि IIT या फिर एम्स नहीं हो तो जिंदगी में कुछ नहीं किया बंदा है ना तो my parents written me off कि बंदे का IIT जाए है नहीं so yeah when Microsoft happened that was a big deal because I never gave up on coding. That was the only thing I'd stuck to and that sort of happened, right? It was one of my companies that I always wanted to get to. So that sort of gave me a boost ki, you know, karm karo, fal ki chinta mat karo types.
Achha.
Yeah. So that was a big learning. Ki you just keep doing things without expecting anything in life. Things somehow happen. So yeah.
And NowFloats was very, very interesting, right? You were trying to help out SMBs that were not online, which I think in 2011, you think about it, none of India was online. I think barely 20 million internet users, maybe lower than that also. And you were trying to build a product to allow SMBs to go online using a text message. Very, very interesting product. Could you tell us a little bit about what was the problem statement and what was the tech you were creating to solve it?
Again, very simple. I did a startup because I wanted to do a startup. Okay, I'm not a smart guy at all who has this great vision and you know the market, know the time. I have no clue. I just like something, I do it. That's for the fun of it, sorry. He's an investor, he won't like that answer. You guys also will hate me for that. But yeah, I just do things for the sake of doing things. I just left my job at a whim. I just left my job. I had no clue what I'm going to do in life. And I had 13 ideas. I was telling the gentleman, I had 13 ideas on the board. Now for that whole website thing is just one of them.
Achha.
So my strategy is simple, right? Like when I decide to do something, I will note down, okay, what are the ideas that I think I should work on? And I start working on all of them. And eventually what happens over the few months, everything fizzles out and one thing stays with you. And that's how I discovered love, right? Okay, because you can't just decide one day, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm not that smart again. So you do multiple things and one thing that stays with you, you know that is something that you every day wake up and are passionate about it. So NowFloats was one thing and it was never the SMS thing. As technically biased, as a coder, you saw iPhone coming in, the apps world coming in. So we thought, okay, ito hone ka hi hai, right? So it was literally an app कि आप app से सब कुछ कर सकते हो. But guess what happened? I used to मेरे घर के बगल में था जो पान वाला, right? The moment in India, this is 2011. The moment in India, you go to a customer and say app, right? He hears free. वो पैसा नहीं देने का उसको. And that was the problem. If I'm giving you value, you got to pay me money, right? Nothing in this world comes for free, right? But when you say SMS, it sort of resonated with these customers. My first customer, the pan wala never became a paid customer. The first customer was a woodworks guy, Ziba Woodworks. Second was a pianist, Pratham Trainers, right? And amazing conversations, right? The fact that they thought ki, आप 3 SMS करो, it will create a website. That was a aha thing. For me, it was 3 API calls that, in the app screen, you have tell your business name, enter your address, you do a Google API call, and enter a subdomain. It was nothing. It was just SMS. I used to trigger the same API call. It's just the interface that changed, and customers loved it. I was like, wow, it's so cool. And we used to charge 2,000 rupees a year back in the day. And we, of course, moved on to 20,000 rupees a year. So yeah, I discovered things just by doing things, never had a plan. But always kept in mind that if I am working, somebody has to see value, and they have to pay for the value. So that mantra I have always stuck to. And that sort of worked at NowFloats as well.
And I thought the product was very, very innovative because we used this, actually the way I got introduced was, it came through Mumbai Angels, but we deployed this in our hotel. Yeah, you can tell.
Oh yeah. So he became a customer, Artha group of hotels, right? And that sort of, we launched the hotel category after, thanks to Anirudh, right? Like, how can a hotel use it? And us time SMS hi chalta tha, right? In fact, Printo, Anirudh, all these guys are like tech-savvy guys, but they lacked the fact that SMS was the thing, right? And so Anirudh was really crucial in terms of helping at the hotel. And can I give another anecdote?
Please.
Typical investors we had, they used to treat our company, again, I'm a tech guy, I had no clue of क्या बोलते हैं, feet on the street, right? At one point, we had 1,000 people. At 1,000 people में से 800 लोग sales के बंदे थे. It was a nightmare to go to office, sorry, to manage people. Because as a tech guy, you thought, okay, hey, I build a product, I'll make $1 million, but that doesn't happen. In India, you have to धंधा करने के लिए लोग चाहिए होता है. वो merchant कभी ₹1 नहीं देगा आपको. You have to send a guy to the store, spend the 3 meetings, and an average 3 meetings to take that money out of the customer. Every investor we got over the time, this treated as an Excel sheet. Ki, Acha, your FOS efficiency is 1.5, you just make it 2 and you'll make this much revenue. I'm like, bro, that doesn't, I mean, that's not the real world. But Anirudh ke saath, when you used to chill, and Anirudh you had a larger sales team in US, I remember, he would ask, Acha, how do you train your sales guys? How do you measure their efficiency? He would ask questions, he would never give answer, but he would ask those questions, which would make me think, Acha, aise karna chahiye sales ko handle. So that is why I really resonated with Anirudh. I should really love chilling with him. Even the Kitsune thing we did. Yeah. Anirudh always had those fundamental execution questions rather than that Excel sheet questions. I mean, maybe Jazz shared you Excel sheets, but I never...
No, Jazz never shared any Excel sheets.
So I never built an Excel sheet. Anirudh also, like, that's why I really liked Anirudh. He became a customer, and over the journey, over the years, he was a great advisor in terms of how to really make my sales team efficient and handle a large FOS team. That was really cool.
Because I think it's very easy to get salespeople together, right? People don't realize how difficult it is to manage a sales team and the kind of emotions a sales guy has to go through when he's dealing with 90% rejection every single day.
Yes, right? Yes. And we had sales team in 45 cities in India, 1,000 people, oh man. So yeah, it was...
But you also were very, very efficient. I think if you think about pre-Jio days, right? Internet was extremely expensive in India. I think SMS was also like 1 rupee per SMS or 1.5, 2 rupees per SMS. And wasn't very easy from a tech angle. Internet was not as ubiquitous as it is today. 2017 was a pivotal moment in India when Jio made everything free. And before that, barely everybody had a data plan, right? People used to stay off the data side. But in that environment, you know, your fundraising was incredible, right? You ended up raising, I think, total of what, 35 million across multiple rounds? 15 million, my bad. You had Iron Pillar, IIFL, Omidyar Network, Bloom. You raised capital, I think, locally from Mumbai Angels, Hyderabad Angels, and a very strong cap table for a pre-2015 business. If you think about it, these are the kind of funds you wanted on your cap table. And then I think in 2019, you had Reliance who came calling, right? And there was a full acquisition by Reliance. And this was one of our second acquisition with Reliance at the time, Find being the first one. Tell us a little bit about the experience of getting acquired.
Whoa. That's like a thing in itself, right? You go to Maker's Chamber and that's where the acquisition happens, right? Like, if you go to learn negotiation, at least I was never exposed to negotiation and stuff, and that's where I learned what negotiation really means, how they really, like, okay, I have to tell an example of...
Stories all yours.
I have to tell an example of meeting Manoj Modi, okay. This guy, I had no clue who Manoj Modi is, of course. We go to the conference room, pehle do bachche aate, not bachche, the senior guys, of course, Nikhil and, okay, not name, sorry, I should not take name. So 2 guys come in, okay, me, Jazz, Nitin, we're all sitting, and he says, these 2 guys knew everything about us, everything, personal life. He knew personal about us, right? Like, मेरे को बोलता बंदा, हाँ तुमने, you तो don't listen to anybody. तुमने तो पापा से झगड़ा कर लेता शादी में. I'm like, bro, what the, right? They put you in a back seat, right? They knew they knew all the skeletons, my personal skeletons in the cupboard about all 3 of us. Then comes Manoj Modi. We were already at a back foot, but that guy is so sharp. He eats, what do you call it in here? Sing dana. Sing something. That groundnuts. Yeah. I had no clue what sing dana is. So he gets groundnuts. He is crazy sharp, razor sharp. यहाँ पे कुछ बोलते हैं टका बोलते हैं ना 10 टका मेरे को पता नहीं था टका क्या होता है right ऐसा and he knows numbers by heart right so what I learned at Reliance is this top management they knows they eat sleep breathe numbers and the taka thing that happens the percentage the margins they have everything is so well understood at the top level. I mean the guy says मेरे को ना software आलू प्याज की तरह बेचना है. I was like, sir, आप ही सही इंसान हो. Because sales was the biggest bottleneck. We knew how to build tech, but the distribution, we had 800 sales guys, but suddenly Reliance says, hey, I'm going to give you an army of 7,000 people. And I'm going to bundle you in Jio so that every merchant who signs up gets we got white label to Jio Online, gets a SaaS product so that your product gets enabled. And what better the dream than your product going to every, like so many customers. When we sold the company, we had 50,000 active paid customers. We're doing about like 50, 60 CR a year, and within the next 3 years, we grew to like 700,000 paid customers, right? And that's super cool scale. We were, of course, hoping for millions of customers, but we got to 700,000 paid customers, and that was really cool. So, and we submitted a business plan कि हम ना ऐसा 50 crore से 500 crore बनाएंगे 3-4 साल में. Mr. MDA says, क्या बकवास मत करो, right? I mean, then we realized that peanuts numbers for them. So like, how do you get to 6,000 crores? I personally never thought of so many zeros in my life. Right? There is a guy called Pankaj Pawar. The consultants of the world, you can do best of the research and come in the pricing strategy. Banda aisa aankh band karega, he'll tell a number. And man, the guy is spot on. Their understanding of Indians is incredible. I have never seen people who have such a fundamental understanding of consumers. Mr. NDA's fundamental understanding of business. He still works at 3 a.m. in the night.
Yeah.
Unka reply raat mein 3 baje aata hai. Right? It's incredible the amount of work he does. Manoj Modi is crazy, he's a crazy execution guy. Operations, right? You have KT and Anish Bhai, amazing tech people. And ko hamesha yaad aata hai ki 10 mahine pehle jo mile the, what did we discuss? They know everything. Pankaj Pawar, amazing business guy, pricing, and all on gut feeling. I don't know how the gut feeling is based, but everything runs. The top management, you might give data, but the gut feeling is absolutely spot on. And I think that was the biggest learning. If you want to build a large house, your understanding the customers has to be the best rather than any people else in the company. Everybody else can do data, big data analytics, AI and all that, but the top guys have to have the
feel of the market.
The feel of the consumer, the feel, the right word. The feel was what I felt at Reliance, and that sort of, I thought, if I could continue that, that'd be so cool too. You got to know the customer's nerves.
And so then in 2019, you go from being somebody that was deciding his own journey to now becoming part of Reliance, and now effectively having an unlimited balance sheet to work with.
Yes, but then what happened, luckily, December 2019, we got acquired. March 2020, market shuts down. My revenue goes down by 70%. And it was bad. Imagine 800 people sitting at home, their feet on the street. They know how to go and talk to a customer. They have no idea how to pick up a phone and talk to the customer. Customer doesn't want to spend money because nobody wants to, we're end of their marketing product, right? Nobody wants to spend on marketing. So how do you redo the engine completely? So COVID was, I had to really take pills and all that, like to really get my head. Like, what do you do? Like, people are at home and you can't push people. They have chaos in the house. So yeah, COVID was a big learning. I think that was biggest learning, that you got to move fast. So within a month, we had to turn around. We launched a product for doctors. We know that is the segment that is spending money. Doctors, spas, salon services, because they have to go home and give services. So we had to really rather optimize towards that signal and build a product fast. And hone in on that. We sort of sustain, agar 100 rupee revenue tha, to of course it declined by 70%. We got back to 60%, 60 rupees, all based on renewals.
Wow.
Right? Because we didn't have single new customer sign up for the next 12 months. So just ran the business on renewals, kisi tarah se bhi. And yeah, so COVID was the biggest learning key. How do you survive in such a market? Because the reason I brought it up, because balance sheet was not infinite. We got money and then nobody's talking. Acquisition हो गया. आपको पैसा मिल गया 1 साल का, लेकिन उसके बाद कोई बात ही नहीं कर रहा because everybody is busy. The entire conglomerate is going through whatever, right? So everybody is busy in their life. So we could not ask for more money. We had to somehow survive whatever money we had asked. And उसमें से हमने 100 पूछा तो 50 मिला था.
अच्छा.
Balance sheet में. So yeah, we had to just survive and we survived. And those were incredible days. I think, yeah, so much fun.
Tell us, what is it like being a founder on your own and now being founder inside a Reliance ecosystem? What was the difference between these two? Because a lot of the founders here talk about exits, right? There's always an exit slide in your pitch deck. And it's always saying M&A to big corporate. Many of them have that. What is it like to being acquired by a big corporate, and what is it like working for a big corporate?
So can I give pros and cons both?
Both, absolutely.
So see, pros is incredible, right? Because you get access to a great GTM strategy. I don't think these large conglomerates do crazy innovation. No, doesn't happen at all. But yeah, you get access to great GTM and great distribution channels and all that. So you're like whatever the dream you had to achieve that scale, that's the scale we achieve through a big corporate. The cons, unfortunately, there's large enough people working, and everybody, I call it the spotlight culture, right? Everybody has a spotlight culture, which I hate. Everybody wants to give मेरा idea था, भाई हम मतलब ठीक है ले लो यार, मतलब why that unnecessary competition amongst people to get the spotlight, to get that कि मेरा था, मैंने किया. I don't like that culture, and didn't like that sort of thing, and especially family in office तो और ज़्यादा गंद. Sorry.
Be candid. They're all known people.
Because family-run office is very, my understanding is very, it's a family, right? It's a very, it's called the inner circle, the trust circle, right? फिर वो trust जब break नहीं होता तो and every other people is trying to get you to that inner circle by getting the trust, and everybody is fighting for the trust. Nobody is optimizing for meritocracy. Everybody is optimizing for trust. कि मैं trust कैसे लूँ?
Correct.
Because the moment you're in the trust, you're in the inner circle.
That is amazing.
है ना? तो इसलिए मेरे को था चमका नहीं फैमिली ऑफिस कि भैया कॉर्पोरेट बेटर है. एटलीस्ट अब OKRs होते हैं.
हाँ. We didn't have this before we also raised money, right? So
So that's a difference. So family-run offices usually have a different culture. I'm sure there might be. Again, I'm generalizing. Please don't say that I'm wrong. I'm just generalizing it. I might be absolutely. There might be other examples as well. But corporate-run offices, again, the rat race. Typically, white elephants. A lot of white elephants are there in corporates who think that मेरे को सब पता है. Right? मैं 20 साल से काम करूँ, मेरे को सब पता है. And I don't like that stuff. Personally speaking. So yeah, that's a cultural problem misfit I had as a startup guy. When you get acquired by a large company, it's a very cultural misfit. And hence, if you look at the average lifespan of an acquired company, the founders is probably max 3 to 5 years.
Yeah. In fact, I was going to say more than 2 years. You spent 5 years, which was quite unique.
लेकिन दिमाग कहीं और था. That's how I survived. So yeah, just the cultural misfit. But then the scale you get, the number of zeros you get to deal with. The discussions about how do we grow the revenue is amazing.
And Dimag kahin aur tha, because there was like 3 different products you were working on before TakeMe2Space came along. Was it the same 13 ideas wala?
No. I had, so I like ideas which everybody considers as right? जो लोग देखे बोले क्या ही बकवास कर रहा हूँ. I love them, right? So I had space, CRISPR, quantum, and robotics, humanoids, in fact. So and my study is simple. इस बार 4 थे. I'll work on all of them. The way I start is I go to Google Scholar. So I don't write code. I go to scholar.google.com, type the topic, sort by the year of publication, and start reading research papers. Again, I don't have patience. I read poster papers, which is like 2-3 pages paper, and I start thinking, "Log soch kya rahe?" Like, what is the research? What are the cool things being talked about in the industry? And start reading the papers, and that's how I analyze, and then gives me a sort of a trend analysis, whatever you call it. And then I zero in on a problem. Okay, let me start reading more about this, so I get few ideas in on every segment. तो क्वांटम पूरा सर के ऊपर से गया, वो सबसे पहला फिजिल आउट हो गया. CRISPR, I was super excited about CRISPR because you could write code on human beings. I mean, what better can that, right? You could program a human being, do gene editing, right? But India में ऐसा allowed नहीं है. So I like, okay, bro, nothing happens. But then what I missed about CRISPR that I could actually do it on bacteria. India allows that to you. As long as you're not part of the food chain of the human beings, you can actually do CRISPR on thing, and I missed that signal somehow. So I missed CRISPR. But yeah, space, thanks to Agnikul guys, they're there. Agnikul, Skyroot, Poster Boys, they were doing, Srinath and Moin were doing fabulous job. And, every child growing up wants to become an astronaut. Our education system, like, they make sure you believe that tumse kuch nahi hona.
I think Srinath would attest to that. Right.
Education system ensures that tumse kuch nahi hona. तुम क्लास में फर्स्ट नहीं आते, तुमको साइंस नहीं आता, भैया वो बकवास है ना. So somehow I gave up on the dreams, but this time I was an engineer, I had money in the bank, so I thought, okay, nothing else, let's start building it. And that's how the space sort of started. Luckily, didn't have so much money to go after rockets. Again, bank balance was very important. How much risk can I take? I didn't have money. He came from US, so he had money, I guess. But I had enough money to go after the satellite as an industry. That's how I zeroed in. Okay, enough happening in rockets. Let me focus on satellite as an industry. Then what I found was, then I look at the market. What are the type of problems people are solving? 90% of the market was on Earth observation. Then I like, okay, ये तो नहीं करना. Right? Then Musk singularly created communication as a market. Internet देने का लोगों को, right? बोले ये तो करना ही नहीं है. Anything that is prevalent नहीं करने का. And rest of the market is all government and defense. बोले okay, ये भी नहीं करने का. What else can I do? Which is today not the cool thing to do.
Correct.
And hence the whole computing, because I come from the computer science background. When COVID, I told you, my revenue crashed by 70%. My AWS bill came down by 10%. I like, what the? So yeah, it doesn't make sense, right? Like your usage has gone down, but then your bill has come down to 10%, and that was a big insight, right? And again, serendipity, whatever coincidences you call it, I was frustrated with the paying 1 CR a month to AWS. I used to hate it. It came down to 60 lakhs, 70, 80 lakhs, whatever. And that's when I thought, why is AWS charging me money? Because end of the day, for keeping a server up, they are paying somebody the OPEX to keep the electricity bill. But space has infinite amount of energy, and that's it. I don't think much. you just get to that one insight, right? And you build upon that. And investors to hate me for that. Like I talk to investors, there's like so many rejections. Of course, this time I went to 10, 20 investors only. And yeah, the crazy feedback I used to get कि क्या बकवास कर रहे हो, तुम कर सकते हो बाकी को नहीं कर सकता. So I tell कि हाँ सब कर सकते हैं. Like if I have two hands, two legs, one head, so everybody can do it. And space sort of session, and the exciting about space is there's so many possible. Like I used to wake up every day and imagine my satellite moving. I in fact applied for a PPL, क्या बोलते हैं उसको, private pilot license, no? Because I wanted to experience ADCS. See, when it's called attitude control, when the pitch roll yacht, when the flight moves. So I wanted to do that, experience myself. And yeah, that's how the space sort of stuck. Every day you wake up, you have a different imagination, different this thing.
So tell us, what are you building with TakeMe2Space? And maybe start with why is the name TakeMe2Space?
So when I was building it, again, what I did not like, so okay, my theory is always talk to people. I share my idea from day zero to everybody. I believe that whatever you do, you should do it in public. ऐसा stealth mode में ऐसा नहीं होता. I always किसी को random बंदा मिल गया तो भी I share this is what I'm working on. So yeah, and I met a lot of ISRO guys on LinkedIn, and they always say कि तुमसे नहीं होगा. I love that answer because those are great ideas, right? When people think you're stupid. So yeah, all ISRO guys said, how can you single guy saying satellite बनाऊंगा, right? What I understood is accessibility is a big problem in this industry. If and we are talking about, hey, we'll become spacefaring species and all that nonsense. Today, when I was growing up, nobody said no to a computer, right? And that's why we have this in our hand today, right? We can't be spacefaring species if children in Antarctica, no children in Antarctica, but yeah, children, let's say Kerala or Africa, if they want to do something in satellites, people say, no, you have to be in IIT or whatever, you have to get in ISRO, NASA, it's crazy shit, right? Not going to happen. So you got to give access to people. And that was the original of idea that I don't want to take people to space, but every single idea that everybody has, I want to take it to space.
Okay.
Right? So hence computing, right? So the way to do is by enabling computing, making it an open platform. तब तक data center नहीं चमका था, right? It was more about कि, hey, I will build something which is API driven, has a really cool interface where anybody wants to do any kind of ideas, logically speaking, is nothing but code. Anybody can write code to my satellite or sort of use my satellite for their purpose. So that's where the name came, and thanks to Neeraj, my other co-founder, great guy. So TakeMe2Space came in. I searched for GoDaddy, TM2.space available tha, and that's it. So domain name has to be available. First the brand and then the GoDaddy domain name. So that's the decision-making process for a company name, right? So yeah, so TM2Space was one like that.
We'll talk about compute and space in a bit, but I want to talk about the way you're building this company, right? As a second-time founder, and obviously in your first iteration, you had a bunch of VCs, and you know, at that time, these were all top-tier VCs. You know, when you talk about Iron Pillar, you talk about IIFL, Bloom, these are top-tier Cat 1 VCs. Second time around, when you're rebuilding or starting off again, what was going through your mind basis? Because I think many of the founders here, and I hope in their life, will again do another venture after selling this one or exiting this one. What was going through your mind when you were setting a company for the second time to correct the mistakes that you made the first time?
ये थोड़ा difficult सवाल है ना? So correct mistakes में से नहीं होता. I know what to learn and work on it. Mistake identification is a very difficult process, by the way. I can't identify my own mistakes in life. So yeah, so what I learned from it is the fact that I have to convince people at this age, whatever age, and this that I have to convince them to still leave their job and work for me for free, right? That's the first learning. You have to always ensure that you don't give money to anybody who works with you in the beginning. And can I do that? And that learning has really worked out. I met people at T-Works, and the second learning was share an idea to everybody. वो ऐसा रास्ता में कोई बंदा मिल गया, पार्टी में कोई बंदा मिल गया, आप you're on alcohol, pitch your idea कि मैं बना रहा हूँ, right? Because you never know where the other person comes from. He or she might not be from the background, right? And that's why I had met Jazz, Nitin. You had met. I was 25. All of the co-founders were 35 above. Yeah. Right. And I met them in conferences. I don't like to do business with friends. I don't believe in that because we have all baggage of the past. So this time I was clear that दोस्तों के साथ तो business करना ही नहीं है. College friends, school friends नहीं करने का. Strangers, I love strangers. That's why. Do with strangers. You start from a green slate and you build from there. So that second, can I convince them to still leave their job? Do I have still the passion to do that? Still a dream. Second, a very structured, like the focus on revenue. I know I was going to do deep tech, and here, there are VCs that said, I'll give you $2 million. I not name them, but you cannot be revenue focused. I'm like, sir, sorry, he's like, no, this is an Indian mindset. I'm like, okay, sir. ठीक है तो है. And he really thrashed me. I'm like, ठीक है. I didn't take money from him, of course. So, again, learning, right? कि revenue is important from day zero. There has to be a customer holding your neck. कि मैंने पैसा दिया, तुम्हें मेरे को value नहीं मिला. The reason I like money is because even if I take 1 rupee from you and you don't see value, you will come to my house and take the money back. right? So that is important. That keeps me accountable. It's not the quantum of money, but the accountability that comes with
Correct.
it. I've taken somebody's hard-earned money, right? So I deliver bhi karne ka hai. My product has to deliver basically.
Correct.
So yeah, make revenue. Third is, I think you guys brought in, I had no clue of cap tables and all that nonsense. MIS, right? Like the fact that when you run a business, not MIS, the business discipline.
Yeah.
वो आप बहुत बोलते थे इसका discipline, ऐसा review meeting होना चाहिए. Nitin learned from you. In NowFloats, we used to have these weekly review meetings where her RM मतलब regional manager, every RM, every branch manager, even FOs had to present, right? And we never, even if we had a fever, we used to log in online and do that meeting, right? And that creates a rhythm in the business. So when I got Anand, who's, you know Anand, right?
Yeah.
He comes from a very different background. He's like, नहीं revenue कौन करता है space tech में? Space मतलब कोई revenue सोचता ही नहीं है इस industry में. Revenue कौन करता है, right? From day zero as a boss, we want revenue. I had 0 customers, but I should do the weekly business meeting, business review meeting. Sorry, my Mondays are my block calendars. My first meeting is always the business review meeting. कि पैसा किधर से आएगा बताओ. बाद में engineering में आते हैं ना. पैसा किधर से आएगा बताओ. And that creates discipline. Now he only thinks about customers and where do I make money.
Correct.
He came from a background that you got to build the product then find a customer. I had to teach him, bro, that doesn't happen. You got to find a customer and then
build the product.
हाँ, तब customer नहीं बताने का, है ना?
Customer does not need to know that there's no product,
but find the customer. If you can't sell the idea at the idea stage, then why the hell are you building the product? It's useless, right? We like अपना Saturday तब गया भी नहीं मतलब, but we got customer paid us 3 CR, right? Arbitrate, and without having a heritage, right? And that comes from that push that I learned from NowFloats. Ki you got to find customers every day. It doesn't matter. It's okay for them to say no. Find customers. So the discipline of doing business reviews. Weekly meetings basically, weekly review meetings, half an hour, 30 minutes meeting, and in a very structured manner. What was the plan? Where are we? Define, again, OKR I tried because chamka nahi OKR, but I have this, what is your MTD, QTD, YTD? Simple. 3 metrics for business review. What is my MTD, QTD, YTD? Kitna hua? It is okay for every week to be 0.
Yeah.
But I said, I want to hear the 0. Because 0 rupees, because क्या होता है ना, business में खराब लगता है. वो बंदे हर meeting में आके बोलते हैं, sir, 0 revenue, right? It drives guilt in them, and I love that. Because वो खुद जाके ज़्यादा मेहनत करता बंदा, है ना? So MTD, QTD, YTD works. And engineering review तो is fine. I'm an engineer myself. So that was one. And second, sorry, I said bad thing about investors. The only way you can keep investors off your phone calls and this thing, send them a bloody MIS. So from day one, and मेरे लिए उस टाइम क्या था वो? Tableau was there. Tableau was game changer. So this is the first thing I did. वो Google Looker Studio में I built an MIS, and Rajul hates me. She's like, मेरे को ये metrics है. बोले Rajul देखो मेरे पास एक MIS है ना, आप ही ले लो. And this is what I think we should track. But Rajul was very supportive. So she's like, yeah, Ronak, I understand. Very supportive of that. So yeah, from day 0 I had an MIS, and the team has a friction. अरे ऐसा हर इन्वर्स क्यों अपलोड करना? It doesn't matter. तुम Excel sheet करो, map the Excel sheet to the Tableau, but for people, it should look like a track. End of the day, if you have taken their money, right? ऐसा खाली पीली का थोड़ी ऐसा. Even when I invest in stock market, watch the share price, right?
Yeah.
The Paytm app or the stock price app is making. You get the point. You get the drift. So yeah, data is important. So give your investor data, so they're off the hook. Because see, bad or ugly, they need to know because it's their money at play. So that was one of the things, that how do you not let investors get involved in your game, so that they don't get कि अच्छा तुमको ना ऐसा करना चाहिए. I don't want feedback. When I need help, I call Anirudh. No, Anirudh, you talk to Agnikul and all that. So yeah, if you want help, you call investors. Don't expect investors to come and help you at all, ever. वो बिल्कुल नहीं होता, वो गलत चीज़ है. Because then they start, oh yeah, I have been through the phase when investors sort of control the board. Oh man, it's a nightmare. Because every company goes to a sine wave, right? वो sine का नीचे वाले wave में, it's a nightmare when Excel sheet driven people control you. So better.
Gladly we don't look at Excel sheets. मैं तो
आप नहीं देखते, बहुत लोग देखते हैं.
Tissue paper kind of a guy. Give me a tissue paper and explain your P&L to me.
I agree.
No, I think, and I was, you know, as you can see, Ronak is a full ball of energy. As you can see, he's finding it difficult to sit where he's at. But what I've really loved, because in NowFloats, I was very early in my investment journey myself, so I wasn't really part of the. I was only part of the quarterly calls initially, but over here, I think every month, like clockwork, his MIS is in. Like clockwork, there is a review meeting with investors. I have never seen him miss it ever since we've been invested. And I think that has given a tremendous amount of confidence to us, right? Because again, we don't understand. Yesterday, when I spoke to him and we were discussing this conversation, he was wearing what looked like a chef hat. And I asked him, koi pizza parlor join kar liya kya? So he's like, no, there's this vibration testing going on with my satellite. And he showed us the satellite, well, that is going to PSLV on the 12th, so I'm doing that. So, but what you loved is that there was just the demystification of what is a very complex product. I think it's very easy to say, yes, we'll build a data center in space, and yes, we'll put it on Agnikul's rocket, and we'll use that second stage, and we'll do all this fancy jazz thing. It's tremendous amount of engineering, tremendous amount of software code writing. Honestly, I feel founders, it is your job to make it simple for us. We are not the smartest people ever in your business. All we know is that each and every business that has been successful, there has been a roadmap or there has been a framework that has done well. What I've loved about Ronak since the day we've invested is that I don't think we've had zero friction in getting data.
If you're, the two things makes a business success. Sorry, I'm sort of.
No, I'm.
The two things that makes a business successful are a great product and a great GTM strategy, right? As long as the revenue aa raha hai, product ban kaam kar raha hai, that's it. Everything else just falls in place. What I've seen, there might be winters, funding winters, what people call it, but that's okay. वो ऐसा sign का होता रहता है जिंदगी में, but product and revenue, right? As long as those two are on top of mind, and because founders are there, when you are evaluating the business, do not think as an engineer. And that was the biggest learning, right? कि अच्छा, when your sales guys give me feedback, no, हर sales बंदा बोलेगा तुम्हारे part में ना ये bug है. And as an engineer, it's very easy to अच्छा get the product manager ये fix करो, नहीं करने का. Sales बोलो ठीक है bug है तो है, बेच के आओ. But you are, see, sales guys are wolves, right? Wolves need blood. Like you got to be like wolves. So you have to think like a wolf when you're managing a sales team, right? Engineer, ठीक है. When I'm doing engineering, I feel a different hat. Then I call this as a बताओ क्या bug है. Then I'm wearing a different hat. So that it takes a lot of toll, but then that changing is important.
I cannot agree with you more. I think see, my boss, who I learned sales from back in the day, he used to say, listen, your sales guys have to be scared of one of two people. Either they are scared of the customer or they're scared of you. Whoever they are least scared of will get sold.
Correct.
Right? So if they're more scared of you, they'll sell the customer. If they're more scared of the customer, they will sell you.
Good point. I agree.
And in fact, very interestingly, they've got to revenue much quicker than what they had themselves stated. How do you now with this money, you've got, I think, a slew of really top, I think, Chirate, you would have the kind of VC board you want, the ability for these people have enough capital right the next round, and you've got a good CVC on board also. Where do you now see TakeMe2Space in the next 12, 24 months?
Oh, 24 months. I want to get to a stage where I can get OpenAI, Microsoft, or Facebook as my customer. That's the goal, right? Because they are the ones looking for compute, and I want them as my customer. So yeah, that's the only goal I have. From a revenue-wise, of course, we did it. We made money before even the company was registered. So that was really cool. And then first year, 6 months, June 2024, we registered, we made 10 lakhs. This year, we have money in the bank of 3.5 from revenue only. I don't talk about investment. And 5th year is coming in. So 8th year will close. In 3 years, we should get to a 40 year revenue. That is for sure. But the key is, can I get this top 10 guys who are hungry for compute as the customer? I want an LOI signed with them. Even if it's a $60 million, $70 million contract, I want an LOI to be signed. And yeah, for that, I need to get to so the aim is, from engineering point of view, today we are at by this month end, we'll be at like a 200 watt compute capacity, which is like a baby compute. Hence we call ourselves AI lab. Next step with this 5 million. With this 5 million, I want to get to a 6 into 2. So 12 kilowatt of compute capacity, basically 10 kilowatt of compute capacity. The third step is to get to 100 kilowatt, because the moment you have 100 kilowatt of compute, these big guys are interested. And then we are there, right? Today, of course, I'm making it's like unlocking small market opportunities. Like I have unlocked EO, I have a good revenue stream happening by selling satellite subsystems. By the way, the only company who has, you can today buy a satellite on my website, and people hate me in the industry because in this entire aerospace industry, everybody says contact us. Nobody gives a price, and other startups hate us. कि तुम क्या बकवास कर रहे हो? Please remove your pricing for the website. Anyway, long story short, because that's how you create trust, right? You have to mention the price to the customer. I have a good satellite revenue going on, but that I'll scale to, let's say, 10 CR. The main revenue has to come from my real-time orbital inferencing. So out of 40, 30 needs to come from there. But the aim is to get these big guys. Can I get 100 kilowatt compute capacity in orbit and get one of these guys to sign up for it? Pre-LOI, of course.
And I think we'll do a little bit more talk about the product. But if you could just explain, how is your product, like how are you building this product differently? Because the intent, what I remember was, currently everything that goes to space has to be space qualified, every single component. You're doing something different there.
Yeah, it's very simple things, right? Like for example, if I have to give the product at an accessible and affordable fashion, I got to reduce the cost of the product. Very obvious, right? So, and this is the mistake that most of the first-time entrepreneurs do. They go out and raise capital. That is stupidity, I think. Don't raise capital. Force yourself to build a product at an extremely low cost, but the best product, of course. So, over the officially we're 1.5 years old, but they have been building it for the last 4 years. So, as TakeMe2Space, we have built all the satellite subsystems except for a solar cell and a propulsion. Everything is built in-house. India में कोई स्टार ट्रक नहीं बनाता. A star truck costs you 20 lakhs to 50 lakhs rupees. A reaction, nobody builds a space motor. A motor costs you 15 lakh rupees. I build for 1 lakh rupees. Sorry, don't quote me, please. My cost price, otherwise my pricing will get beaten up.
Cost price, guys, not selling price.
Then a cost price, I'm telling you. And because when I am building the infra, my business model is to sell time, right? Like a data center, customer pay for the time. So my infrastructure building cost should be as minimal as possible. So that was a North Star. So when I looked at, okay, if I buy the satellite, how much is it going to cost me? If this cost has to recover, at space everything sells for 5 years or median is 3 years. 3 साल के अंदर customer से पैसे वापस लेने का at a 70% gross margin, standard software algorithm. I only build software, so I know software business models. So 70% gross margin, customer से पैसा वापस लेने का. So it was not making sense. So hence I thought, okay, let's build the entire stack ourselves. And yeah, and that really worked for us. So we built everything ourselves. We are able to reduce. The only thing we don't have in control is launch cost, which is what Agnikul and Skyroot are doing. Because space is a capex game. It's not an opex game, right? All the in-orbit economies that we're talking about, space manufacturing, data centers in orbit, you have pharmacy happening in orbit, data relay satellites. It's all in-orbit economy, right? They're all a capex game. Once you have your asset in orbit, there is no operational cost of running that asset, at least for the next 5 years, especially LEO. So hence, can you reduce the capex? The more you reduce the capex, the better, either the better margins you have or you pass on the benefit to the customer. But I believe we should pass on the benefit to the customer, still have a 70% gross margin. So yeah, we build everything ourselves and that sort of worked for us.
I mean, I would say
it's
that...
common sense.
Huh?
It's common sense.
It's common sense. Yeah, you know, it's, and that's, I think the way you explained it when I went to the IIIT Hyderabad, I came to your office, the way you explained it, I felt like, you know, I knew a little bit about building data centers, and I could tell everybody ki kaise banate data centers and all that, just because you dumbed it down for me, right? But what was happening outside was this Agnikul and TakeMe2Space guys suddenly connected outside, and they were having this insane conversation. I said, listen, let's not do this there. Let's do it here. And now what I like to do is I want to invite the Rocket Boys with the ball of energy here. So guys, Agnikul, these guys just closed $17 million at a $500 million valuation. They've gone on to become the most valued company in space tech at the moment. And with Ronak, we're getting the first data labs in space getting built. Obviously, if you go back and see 2019 pitch deck that Agnikul sent us, one of these options they said of why they needed rockets to take small satellites to space was to build data centers in space, right? So they had some idea this is going to happen. I don't know how much they believed in it, or I don't know how much they believed we believed in it. But the point was that it was very, very early those days to even talk about building data centers. Today, in 10 days, ever since Elon Musk wrote a tweet, every person in the world believes that data centers to space mein hone hi chahiye the. This is like, it's obviously, what are you talking about? We always thought data centers are going to be in space. I can guarantee you, and I say this story about Agnikul, when we invested in Agnikul, our LPs asked us one question. They said, we live in a country where launching a Diwali rocket requires Supreme Court approval, right? And you're talking about launching a real rocket. I think similar thing happened with data centers in space. People said, ki data centers in space? Yahan ground pe nahi ban rahe, to wahan banaoge, right? But now, as you can see, this is the moment of reckoning. But what was happening outside was very interesting. 3 guys in space tech. So by the way, that's Mohan, co-founder Agnikul, Srinath. I think most of you guys should know them, so I'm not going to introduce them once again. But what they were talking about was fairly insane. They were talking about the ability for compute in space and how their companies can combine to create something fairly unique in space. So I'm going to talk to them for 10 minutes, and I would love for you guys to come up with questions. Think about compute in space. Think about what Elon Musk says. The best people in India to answer those questions are all 3 on this stage today, right? So very quickly, Srinath, maybe you could start and give us a bit of understanding. Now you've raised this round, And one of the things you're talking about is rocket as a service, RaaS. What does that mean?
Sure. Thank you for that introduction, Anirudh. So before I answer that question quickly, right, I think all of you would have seen that $1.5 trillion IPO. That's what SpaceX is looking at. Hopefully Agnikul will get there soon. But that is actually, I think, a sign. I mean, of course, Elon has a lot of weight when he says something, but it is a sign of what is actually opening up in space today, right? So I think that is why it's a very interesting conversation that I think we're going to have, right? So I think the core part for us, for Moin and I, started with a story about not throwing away a rocket after using it just once, right? This is the whole story. Rockets generally are one-time use, objects. You throw it away and then you bill the customer for throwing it away. So that doesn't make sense. He's not going to launch with us if that is what happens. So people started talking about collecting a part of the rocket. A rocket usually goes in parts. There is one part after the tanks are empty, you throw it away. The remaining part goes to space. So Elon, through SpaceX, made it look like, bringing it back is no big deal. It's incredibly hard, by the way, right? But that is one part of the story. At least people are warmed up to it, right? People don't think it's hard. Actually, it's very hard. So that's one part. So, okay, we'll also do that. It has been done like, I think, 500 times by them, so that should be okay. But the next part of the rocket, which is hard even for SpaceX, is to bring that part back, the part that goes to space back. So the way Moin and I talk about it is, it's like you want to send something up and you want to bring it back, but you want to charge the customer only for one way. You'd have heard of this analogy that SpaceX keeps coming up with, right? If you have a plane, you don't just fly from, so we came from Chennai, I'll use Chennai, Mumbai. So you don't fly from Chennai to Mumbai and throw away the airplane. You use it to come back. That is the standard SpaceX story.
Unless you're Indigo at this point.
That is one more dimension to the problem today. So you come to Mumbai and then when you come back, you actually charge people for that. It's not a free ride back for anyone, right? But that is missing in that analogy. In the rocket analogy, it's like, you don't go up and just throw it away. When you're coming back, someone has to pay for it. So no one pays for it today, right? So that analogy was a gap for us. It's like, wait, okay, it's a two-way ride. Customer will pay for one way. We will bring it back. Who pays for the second way back? No one will. Which is why, unless you're building a tremendously big rocket, like the Starship rocket that you would have seen, it doesn't make economical sense to undo what you've just done. It's almost like I did all this work, all thousands of things work together, went to space, and then did a U-turn and come back literally, and no one pays for that ride, and you're saying you're cheaper. So that didn't work for us, which is why we said, okay, now that you're there, can you make money there itself? You're anyway in space, you anyway are going to release your satellite there, can something be done with that? So that is where the idea started, right? Why should you bring back everything? Reuse is good, but why recover and reuse? Why not just extend and reuse? So we patented a set of technologies that are allowing our rocket to become an operating asset in space, where we don't need to really bring it back to make more money out of it. So that is the core idea. It has never been done before. And I think Moin always calls it a rock sat. You blur the line between a rocket and a satellite. We also like to more, in a jargon way, call it rocket as a service. Or rocket as a satellite. All of these things, but you've blurred the line itself. So that is what this is about. So quickly, to bring it back to the 1.5 trillion IPO, the idea is, when you build stuff like that, you're actually building the infrastructure for housing these data servers. So that automatically makes this whole venture even better. Which is why you're hearing, I think like 2 days or 3 days ago, we heard Sam Altman trying to buy a big stake in a rocket company in the US. And of course, Elon's tweet that has gone viral now. Before that, I think Sundar Pichai has been talking about going to space. Few months before that, Eric Schmidt invested in relativity space. Suddenly, the connection that we never made is happening. AI and space are getting connected. So, which is a very interesting phenomenon for us.
I think the space economy, as we were calling it when we started this investment, is starting to come together. So how do you, and I think somewhere you guys have talked about this second stage idea. So what do you think about this, Ronak, this second stage becoming a satellite itself, how does that help you, especially towards cost, towards logistics, etc.?
When you're building the first mission as a satellite builder, you do not have so much of capital to invest or to pay money for a full rocket launch or for the full spectrum, right? But then imagine it's like a mother satellite, which is already going to be there. You just buy a portion of it and then you pay for that portion. So it amortizes across multiple sort of payloads, and I think that's what the coolness of the idea is. Okay, hey, anyway, that guy is, the upper stage is going to orbit, it's anyway going to orbit Earth. Can I extend the life? Can I add like solar panels and extend the life for it? Can I add wheels on the motors to it? Can I make it turn, twist, and all that? Can I add some S-band antennas or whatever X-band antennas and I point to the ground station? Because the platform is already in orbit for 45 days, right? All you have to do is orbit maintenance, right? And if you can do that, it's an asset that can generate revenue for you. And it becomes very easy for customers like us because I don't have to pay for the full satellite. As a rocket guys, these guys will give me power and communication. All I have to do is work on my payload, right? So it makes my time of development and the cost of development of the hardware. Let's say I'm doing the clicker. I only develop the clicker. I don't have to worry about how will this harness power from orbit, how will I send data to this. The platform will give that capability, right? How do I click a picture of Earth? I can maybe do a call and then it turns, the platform turns towards it and I can click a picture, right? So yes, that's the advantage. It makes the entry barrier for new people to come in much lower. And that is what will lead to faster innovations. And after people do it, they might have their individual mission, and which is where their main core business of having rocket comes in. But you enable the grassroots, and then you have a solution for them when they go bigger also. So it completely stitches the whole story.
Let me ask you the fundamental question everybody wants to ask. Why is data centers in space such a unique idea?
I think two reasons. One is cooling and energy from the sun. These are the two reasons that you get. Both is because of the environment that the space actually has to offer. And because of this, you don't need to spend any money on the ground. And more importantly, there's no better physical security than in space.
But what are the challenges then?
No, but I have a different... So he's right. I'll give you a different anecdote, right? If you look at, and that's why I think that is there. If you look at wherever the human is there, they have taken compute along with them. Today, Alexa is in my bedroom.
Yep.
My daughter, the first word she sort of orated was not Papa, Mama. She said Alexa. When she was born, she said Alexa first.
You have to be an engineer's daughter for that to happen.
So wherever humans go, they will take compute along because we are inefficient like crazy, right? And computer makes us efficient. So that is inevitable that there will be data centers in Moon, there will be data centers on Mars. Wherever we go, we will take data compute along with us. Right? So it is an inevitable thing to happen. People might question it, kaun banayega, udhar power nahi hai, wo nahi hai, jo bhi hai. But we will solve it. We'll figure out a way. Nokia is setting up network in Moon. Lone Star has got the contract of already setting computing hardware on the Moon. I think HP is setting up those racks on Moon. You have humans staying in space station. People are building data centers inside the space station. So wherever there is a human, there will be compute. Rule of thumb. Right? And that's why you identify opportunities. Okay, kahan pe human ja raha hai, jahan pe compute nahi hai. People are going to submarine, people are going deep in the floor. I'm sure people will take compute along there. Right? So people are inside the mines. Then there is a need for AI to be in mines, inside the mines as well. Who says no? You just figure the use case, the right timing.
But if it's so, easy or important to be in space, then what are we solving for? Why is it so difficult to set up data centers in space? I'm asking the questions that everybody has been asking me individually, and I'm asking for all of you at this point.
Banana asan hai na. The point is how many people have the real intent to do it. See, end of the day, it's an engineering problem, right? Once you decide to solve it, you can solve it. Space comes challenges. It's a free body. There's radiation. There is a crazy amount of thermal cycling. But those are engineering problem statements. You put your head down, you can solve it, right? There's 15,000 emails you wrote.
Yeah.
The fact that you decided to create that fund, and hence you have the grit to do 15,000 emails. So, and I'm sure a lot of fund managers give up in the first go itself. 150 email likha, chhod diya usne. It was intent tha hi nahi kabhi. Yeah. So, it is not difficult. It's all about, like Apollo happened like, I don't know, 50 years before? 69, right? Because the guy had an intent. Right? So, if you have the intent, we will go solve it. It's just an engineering problem statement. So, I don't think it's difficult. It's just that people don't have the intent to do it. People are too chill.
What do you have to say to that, Moin?
I think he's right there. The intent is definitely the root cause, but also acceptance that space as an environment can offer a lot of things. We are not seeing that as an environment at all. We are seeing it as a far-fetched thing.
Yeah.
I think that mind block has to be first gone from people. I think like how deep tech investments were adapted. Space tech has to be adapted as an environment. I think that is something that if once that acceptance come, then everybody will forget Earth. It will be about like going to space, doing everything to.
But how do you solve the connection issue, right? Because obviously space, you don't, I mean, unlike let's say a data center, you've got fiber optic wires, etc. Space, you've got layers of the atmosphere to go through. Is that being solved today? What is this way to solve it?
I think there are enough companies today that are focusing on data transmission. We have laser-based commuting.
So you have RF happening, you have light happening. Then the problem is that satellite aake chala gaya, right? And then you want to stay as close so that you can fast communication. So there's constellation, which is what Starlink does. At every point in time, there's one satellite above you. So that guy who wants to send you data can give to this guy, and this guy gives the data to you. So again, it's speed of light. Everything operates at speed of light, right? And with 1550 nanometers, you can actually send a laser beam down. And that 1550 nanometers has been there in a fiber optics for the last 20 years, right? We all have been using 1550 nanometer wavelength of light. We just never thought that upar dalo, to bhi, it doesn't interact with the atmosphere. It is just very susceptible to the temperature, right? Temperature is a wavelength shift hota hai, but then it doesn't interact with the atmosphere. So it's just internet.
And also the other point to add is you don't need to send all that data down and you become a node, right? I think the whole story is becoming like compute needs a lot of energy. You get that in space. But when you deal with that energy, you have to cool it. That's also in space. You crunch everything and send what you want. Like the whole vision is becoming about like all our devices don't do compute. They just connect. And so you're looking at, yes, it's some GBs per second, but it is not like, you're not talking terabytes per second to come down. They are processing all that in space. So I think that is also the
That's my business model, by the way. Today, that's how I make money today. Thank you.
Right? So you don't have to get everything back down. I think that's more important.
I completely agree.
And I think the other question of why is not everyone doing it in space, I think the intent part to add on top of that is the money part. So I think, yeah, so that is also there because it takes a certain level of, I would say, empathy and maturity in the investor also to look for it, because I think he spoke to the first customer literally like when we only had a convention. A lot of people talk about 3D printing about us. Forget 3D printing. When we had our old engine which was not 3D printed, we still took it to a customer and showed. So that he has done. Agnikul started because I met a customer who brought a satellite in a stroller. Yeah, in a stroller. He came to a conference in LA and then maybe he was a little drunk, I don't know. He just went on and on about no one being there to launch that satellite. Which year was this? 2016. So I think that those things are already there. So the intent is definitely one problem, but I think the ability for people to also understand. And then in India, you talk about policy. And that I think Moin will have a story to say. He's a law enthusiast, so you should talk about that story. But so all of those things have to come together. The space problem is hard because engineering meets money, meets law, meets intent. So that's why. But
Srinath was actually mentioning about how in 10 days back, I think Sam Altman was talking about, I think Eric Schmidt 6 months before. Now we've said this 6 years before itself that data centers are going to come. It's just that we didn't have enough money and the cloud to say it and everybody for us to believe it. I think I would take the stage and actually tell maybe like in the next couple of years, maybe pharmaceutical companies are going to be the next big thing. So protein crystallization, because that environment has a lot to offer. And I think drug extraction works and builds differently down there in space. So what we've understood with respect to space is just not like data computing or going to space or doing any of those things. It's an environment. It has so much to offer. It is not limited to any other one sector itself. It will be applicable to so many other sectors. Manufacturing in space will come in. I think entertainment from space is the next big thing. I think you can also read about that. It's literally debris burning inside the Earth's atmosphere and lighting up an entire country. I think the best Diwali that you can have from space. Or an IPL event you can imagine in that aspect. So we've started seeing this, actually what we were anticipating at least 6 years before, that these are the sectors that will take space and then they will actually monetize over a period of time. And I think database space centers are being in the limelight. There's a lot of interest coming out along, and obviously I think other sectors would also be a part of the space ecosystem.
I think the rocket, and I'm selling Agniban here obviously, is a tool that allows access, that's all. It's like there is a door, behind the door there's an entire environment. People are able to now start seeing what is behind, but still the keys are not there.
Yeah.
And that is what a rocket is. It allows you to suddenly start doing things in that environment. So that is why we believe that, we are the key to that door that now an entire ecosystem will be replicated. We always used to think like, if something can be done on Earth, everything can be duplicated in space as well. But wait, how can we go there?
Correct.
That's Agnikul.
So I'll leave you with one last question. And I think, Ronak, we spoke about this during this funding round. I said, how much would it cost to build a data center in space, let's say 100 kilowatt capacity? And what would be the payback period?
So yeah, if I had to build a 100 kilowatt, I would need $60 million, including the launch cost, right? You put $60 million, the payback period would be, I mean, that depends on the pricing, of course. Today, again, depending on what the launch cost is, with the given launch cost, it will be at least 50 times costlier than AWS. So you have to go to the customers who don't have access to, who are choking out on AWS and GCPs, right? Like the OpenAIs of the world, because they can pay you that 50x premium for that thing. And of course, you need to have 70% gross margin. You sell time, right? Our satellite orbits 5,000 times around Earth. Screw 2,000 orbits, you have 3,000 orbits left. So even if you monetize 70% of that thing, you got to make the whole capex in year 1, so that year 2 and year 3 are profitable for you. And that is how I decide my pricing.
Okay.
At a 70%, like out of 5,000, remove 2,000, kuch to kharab rahega satellite, pakka. And out of 100% capacity, we can't sell 100% capacity, we'll sell 70% capacity, best case scenario. And in there, the pricing is to have...
so you're saying 70% of 2/3, which roughly is 42% or 43% of the overall capacity.
Overall capacity. You go to, exactly. So 40, now that's a feasible number.
Correct.
I have 100 potatoes, I can sell 40 potatoes. वो 40 potatoes मेरे को धंधा बनाने का है ना? मेरा farming cost निकलने का है, and then next year all profit.
So guys, I think we need to get these satellites into space quickly. Agnikul, we need you to get these rockets together, and we need you to build this 100 kilowatt thing as quickly as possible.
So are your satellites in space right now? Like, are people using it? And like, how many can go up? Like what's the whole thing?
So yeah, the first space mission I did was 2023. So 2023, where it was a simple thing. Like I got to take, when I'm talking data center space, I have to take terrestrial data center grade GPUs in orbit, right? I can't be saying that customer ke bhai naya chip bana tum uske liye code likho, koi nahi karne wala. So the first mission we did, that was the first satellite we built, was and radiation is a big, right? And how do you prevent, either you go for space, sorry, I'm going tech, but then either you go for things that can survive radiation, or if you want to protect this, you put a layer around it. So I studied material science for a year and figured, okay, how do you protect radiation to come in? So first satellite we send, and luckily, sun was going crazy that time, right? Solar maxima was happening, the 11-day cycle is ending, and we experienced 11x class solar flares, right? Crazy amount of solar flares, so got lucky. So that's 45 days, so that helped me prove my first satellite that, okay, I can reduce the effect of radiation by a factor of 10. That was the first IP. Second was MOITD, which was Demonstration India's whatever market line, like India Lab, AI Lab in space. So there, all the components we built, we had to first see कि वो काम करता भी है कि नहीं. वो motor, छोटा baby motor, baby torquers, baby thing. So that went to orbit. Now the satellite that is going up, and those were 3-month missions, small missions. Now that guy is going up, the aim is to survive for 3 years. So that is happening on C62. Touch wood. काम कर जाए. But yeah, always doubt. As an engineer, always doubt कि नहीं काम करेगा, है ना? So yeah, the guy should survive for 3 years in orbit now.
I know this is very aspirational and everything. I think one is latency, right? That's a big chunk of issue, and I think even the Starlink is not able to do more than 20 milliseconds, and that's a huge risk. Even if you do a DNS query, it's like we recently built a tag by which you can filter out the emails on a DNS site, which we are able to get at 56 milliseconds. So you have a 56 milliseconds, then 20-30 milliseconds more. So it should not be like I'm just opening a Facebook and waiting for a longer period of time. So it doesn't, I'm not sure again what is on there. The other is security, right? While in optical fiber, it's inside the kind of environment. I've met a company, right, back in Bay Area, where they're replacing optical fiber with the wireless transmission, right? So one hop to another hop, and they were replacing it. But they would not get successful because whenever there is a signal in the air, right, you can very easily intercept it. Although the data will be encrypted on this, but I'm not sure if you guys know, but the encryption are built by NSA and all of those people, CIA and all of those, right? So it's very easily breakable, and with the quantum computing, things go on a different track. So how feasible is your plan from both the angles?
So the first one, you got to look at the use case. The whole computing world, I'm sure a computer science guy, is divided into asynchronous compute and synchronous compute. And over time, the need for asynchronous compute has fundamentally gone up. Today, the chat GPT we use takes 6 months of training time. That's asynchronous compute. The synchronous compute, where we need the data in 1 millisecond, will say terrestrial. It's like the edge device. The user experience has to be powered by a compute as close to the user as possible. The intelligence that powers that edge intelligence can be taken away 40 millisecond or 50 millisecond away, because that's where the cost reduction happens. So in orbit, you will always find asynchronous compute, not synchronous compute in orbit. Right? So that's one. I hope that answers the first one. And hence, people are talking about putting GPUs in orbit. Nobody's planning CPUs, CDN networks, no. And the reason it is feasible now, if you look at a data center P&L, right? 70% revenue comes from asynchronous compute. CDN costs are diving down. The GPU's costs are going up, pricing, sorry, MR, not costs. The GPU costs are pricing going up because the need for asynchronous compute has fundamentally gone up. I will chunk a lot of data and then find the inference, less data. Hai na? The less data goes to edge device, and that's where the answer comes from. So that's the first part of your question. Second part is, you are spot on. No denial to that. A naked communication channel can always have a middleman attack, can always have data spoofing. China does it. Like China would come above us and they spoof like we have a satellite, right? The Chinese satellites come above us and they actually spoof GPS signals. There's no clue. We have no idea that मेरे को दूसरा GPS signal मिल रहा है, right? And that happens time and again. With Cartosat, we have seen it. With all that, we have seen it. So that's an unanswered problem, but I'm hoping we will solve it someday. That's the area for us. So great.
We'll take
so if you want to do
question.
That's a great startup idea.
Guys talk to you guys over a couple of drinks, because I think so now we'll need some of that. Any other questions? You've got one, yeah. So I'll just repeat the question. You're saying, who would be a typical customer for the rocket as a service, and have you found a customer that would use that?
So we are actually trying to change the customer's perspective itself. Earth observation satellites need not be built. Just the payload, just the camera guys would be sufficient enough. If there are antenna manufacturers, and then we have the bus along with ourselves, then I don't think there's a requirement of a satellite itself to be built. So that's exactly what we are focusing on, asking people to focus on payloads rather than building on satellites. So that's the first change that we want to do. And it's not limited to only Earth observation and communication. Data service is an extension of that. Pharmaceuticals, that's what I was talking about. Like, it's an environment. All the other sectors can also be a part of it. So we already have a bus available with us. It's called a satellite bus in layman terms, or in the space language itself. But that's exactly what we are building as a service. So we are connecting point A being ground and point B being space through the rocket. And then we are also offering a space on the satellite itself, or the second stage that we call it as, for the payload guys to actually use that. In that way, that is how we are covering it.
So you can think of it as every satellite, any satellite in the world has something that it is something about what it is really doing from space, and then a whole set of hardware to keep it in space. Right? That whole set of hardware to keep it in space is actually also available to a large extent on a rocket's last stage. Why are we duplicating? That is the core idea. If you think first principles, it's like you anyway are building that to go to space. That guy is anyway building it to be in space. Can we work together so that a lot of duplication is removed, and then what that guy is good at, the customer is good at, he or she will build. What we are good at, we'll continue building. Overall, the mission becomes cheaper. Right? The idea is about spotting areas where duplication is there and removing it. And that's why it's actually any asset that has to go in space can benefit from this. So to answer your question about have we identified customers? Yes, very much. And it's fascinating for them because there are two cost savings. One, the bill of materials of the satellite is reduced. Two, the launch cost is also reduced. So that way, customer finds it very attractive.
Ronak, final word.
So ISRO has a platform called POEM. Just Google ISRO POEM. ISRO is the only space engine in the world to monetize the PSLV ka fourth stage. They're also trying to monetize the SMILE ka fourth SSLV ka fourth stage, which will be called SMILE. And ISRO gives you $5,000 per kg. For me, it was like a God's grace. Right? I wish this thing existed before. The problem with ISRO is they only give you 45-day mission span. What these guys are thinking is that they'll give you 5-year mission span. Now, which is a fundamental shift, what he said, right? EO satellite बनाने का है ही नहीं. So ISRO gives you as an experimental platform. These guys are giving you satellite as a platform. Of course, rocket है तो rocket, satellite as a platform, whatever. But that is a game changer. Today you have businesses like ExoLaunch, you have businesses like क्या नाम है? Loft Orbital, you have businesses like or what's the name? So many businesses, they will make like $40-50 million a year easily, right? Or a max cap is $100 million revenue, right? There are enough companies like that in the world who are called hosted payload service providers. They have a mother satellite, they have pre-booked slots on SpaceX. They have a mother satellite, they aggregate these baby payloads, put them in a satellite and put it up. The problem for the customer is they're paying for the construction of the whole satellite, paying for the launch cost, it gets added up. Now the benefit of rocket becoming a satellite is somebody has already paid for the rocket. The primary satellite has already paid for the rocket, right? So all the customer has to do is pay for their thing they have done in their rocket to become a satellite bus. That's the innovation here. So that will be a fundamental shift. ISRO has done 45 days, so that is the engineering challenge they have to solve. But from a business point of view, it's a very well-established GTM strategy. So getting a customer is like the easiest thing to do here, is what I think. You know?
Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much, guys. I think it's amazing that today we've talked from everything from taking temple flowers to making incense products to clean snacking to AI voice agents, AI recruiting. Now we're talking about computing in space. Thank you so much for being here.